Okay, today is September the 25th, 2022, and right now at 1:30 p.m. we have a temperature of 88 degrees. It's actually 89 now here in the foothills of Los Angeles. The barometric pressure is 30.03 inches. We have relative humidity of 32%. The dew point is 54.6 degrees, and we have clear skies. We're having another heat wave, which is just getting started. We had, I think it was around 95 to yesterday. It was 95 degrees. Tomorrow it's supposed to be hotter, and Tuesday even hotter than that. So that's what's happening here in the Los Angeles area. All right, so right now we're looking at tropical storm, not Fiona, but this is Ian, still down in the Caribbean Sea, and we can see here on this loop how the rotation gets started. So in the beginning of the loop, let's just back it up. We can see that this is a giant rising air mass right here. There's no rotation, and it's hit suddenly. We can see that around the edges. We begin to see a pressure wave move out. Let's back it up again. You can see that pressure wave. You can see that pressure wave move out. We have the icicle pattern, and it's hit several different times around the edges, and suddenly we get rotation. And that's how these demon weather controllers are able to take an area of low pressure and thunderstorms and hit it on the outskirts, which is descending clockwise air, and that begins this area spinning clockwise, which is exactly how you start a cyclone. You get a vortex spinning, and the vortex is allowed to spool up, and this one is supposed to be a category 4. They're going to let it get to category 4, maybe even 5 status, and run it right up into someplace in Florida. It's not sure yet, but the entire west coast of Florida is going to get hammered, probably from about Fort Myer up through Tampa and all the way up along the Panhandle will be hit pretty hard, especially these areas right on the right side of that vortex, the eye wall. And there's going to be a lot of flooding in Tampa. If we look at the, let's just zoom in here. This is the Doppler map, but if we zoom in, look at the situation here. This is an inlet, and all that, if that eye wall gets near this area, it's going to pull a lot of water into this bay area. We've got 2 big bays. All these low-lying areas are going to be really flooded. So that's a concern, I think it's been 100 years since a hurricane has actually hit Tampa, Florida. And Governor DeSantis is from Dunedin, which is right just north of Clearwater. There's Dunedin right there. This could be a message from the deep state to just don't get too don't be sending busloads of immigrants up to our enclaves up in Martha's Vineyard. But we like DeSantis. He's a freedom lover, and he's trying to run a good state. People are moving there for a lot of reasons. And so, but anyway, this is going to be a damaging hurricane. Now, the other thing is the next rad, that is the WSR 88Ds. Here's a map of the WSR 88Ds. Okay, and that's what the tower looks like. These are up on a 6-story tower, and the transmitter is right up in that radome. Now, Florida has about 7. They have 7 of these transmitters, and one of them is in Tampa. KTBW is in Tampa, Florida. We've got others at Elgin Air Force Base. We've got one at Jacksonville, one at Key West, one in Melbourne, Miami, Tallahassee, and Tampa. Now, I'm going to bet that none of these are going to be operational when Hurricane Ian hits Florida. We're going to keep an eye on it, but we'll just see what happens. Here's the long wave IR map. We can see the development begin. We've got a lot of rising air. It's hit a few times around the periphery, and then we get rotation. Satellite transmitters are targeting this system with microwave and or laser. Laser also heats water vapor. tropical tidbits loop is actually quite interesting. We can see the very beginning of the development and the rotation. So it's hit, we can see the blast pattern, and then we see the rotation begin. Let's watch it again. So we can see that rotation develop. And this becomes a rotating tropical storm, which will be a hurricane within 24 hours, I'm going to predict. They're saying 36 hours, but it's going to be a lot shorter than that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the surface temperature map of the Gulf of Mexico. 30 degrees C is about almost 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So these waters are very warm. This area here, if you look at the key, is around 84. The green area is about 84 degrees. And then we get up near this area. This is 85, 86, 87, 88 degrees right along. Fort Myers is right down here. And then you have Tampa right up there. So this is going to be quite interesting to see what happens. As we know, in the last video I pointed out, we showed you what happened with Hurricane K, which literally ran right over Los Angeles. And we got just, it was interesting. A lot of areas got substantial rain, but the foothill areas along all the way from the San Fernando Valley all the way out to Rancho Cucamonga and further out didn't get much rain because of the WSR-88Ds. They were evaporating a lot of the cells that were moving in. And I think we recorded 0.08 of an inch. It's just ridiculous. I mean, a hurricane coming over, it would have solved a lot of the drought problems, not only here in LA, but also in Lake Mead, right near Las Vegas, Hoover Dam, and then of course Lake Powell. That storm K should have just really nailed the entire Southwest with rain and helping to alleviate the drought. This is a manufactured drought. We've got demons controlling our weather. And they're about to send a message to Governor Ron DeSantis. And we'll keep an eye on this because this can be prevented. But as we look at the surface pressure map, which is right here, we see, let me scoot the thing over here so we can see it all. We see high pressure right here just offshore of the coast of Texas. And then we have high pressure installed right over Georgia, and that will this is going to stall the northbound hurricane such that it'll sit and dump a lot of rain like what we saw over here in Texas here a few years ago. The Gulf of Houston, they called it. There was so much rain. There was like 33 inches of rain in 24 hours because there was high pressure installed right up here, and that hurricane there was high pressure here and highs all up here installed, and this hurricane came along. It was pointed north. They steered it north, and it just stalled right over Texas, and it dumped 3 feet of rain in 24 hours. So the very same thing could happen in Florida. So we're going to keep an eye on it, and we'll certainly keep updates coming as they become available. But the National Hurricane Center, I don't know if I've shown that. I've had to do this map or this video over again because of technical problems, but let's see if we can find the National Hurricane Center map, which is right here. So this is the latest. I may have already shown this. I've done a couple of takes on this already. By Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we see the progress here. This could go anywhere. It could end up in Alabama for all we know, but at any rate, Florida, the west side of Florida, is going to get a lot of rain because of that high that's parked over Georgia and the high that's over on this side of the Gulf. So it's pretty much the fix is in. We've been hearing, like I said, since last Monday about this area of low pressure that developed last Monday, Tuesday-ish, and now we're at Sunday, and now we've got, and of course they knew way back then what the plan was, and a lot of these storms can be easily knocked down. All of them can be knocked down. You remember Hurricane Patricia? That was a Category 5 with over 200-mile-an-hour winds. I called it a Category 7. I shouldn't have done that, but it was so powerful that they need to probably upgrade the Saffir-Simpson scale, because certainly they can let these storms spool up to far beyond the outer limits of Category 5. There is no limit on a Category 5, but they probably ought to come up with a Category 6 and 7 based on some of these typhoons in the West Pacific and Hurricane Patricia. All right, so there's the jet stream map. I think I showed that. That's, if this was diving down a lot further, it might have an effect on where this system Ian might end up. But it looks like the fix is in. If you look at the surface map, once again, they've got highs parked here and here installed, and that will stall this thing once it gets up into Florida. It may steer it back over the Carolinas. We'll have to just wait and see. We see this high is right there, and one right over right near Texas. So that's pretty much it. Last item is this was Hurricane Fiona. Let me show you the progress of Hurricane Fiona. This is probably the first hurricane that has hit Canada in a long time. I don't know how many years it's been. This is a strong Category 4 storm, and you can see that the eye wall is targeted. It loses its symmetry for a time, but they let it basically run its course. They could have stopped this. It ran right into Canada right there, and if you look at the videos on YouTube, it did a lot of damage. There was a lot of wind. A lot of wind. And you can take another look at it here. These storms are targeted by satellite transmitters. It knocks the pressure down, but then they allow it to rebuild, and it comes roaring back even stronger. And see the progress right there. And they hit it right before it went into Canada. But if you run it back a little bit, you can see the right about, had an eye wall right about past Bermuda, and as it moves north, they start hitting it right about there. The eye wall is destroyed, and it briefly rebuilds, and they hit it with high pressure right here. You see, this is the high pressure. That is the eye wall right there, but it's hit with high pressure right here, and that completely destroys and disrupts the lift in that vortex. You see that? And so as this progresses, you see how it tries to rebuild, but they keep that satellite transmitter. You can see the straight edge there, right there. There's some straight edges here. You see that sort of an angle right there, and this hurricane is no longer a hurricane. There's a lot of rotation, a lot of wind, but the vortex has been completely disrupted, and that's the end of the loop. So, all right, so that's it for now. We'll keep a close eye on this storm, and if you're in Florida, make sure you got a lot of ice, a lot of batteries. The power could be out for several days or maybe a couple of weeks because of the fact that there's going to be so many teams of people dealing with power outages and lines down and all the rest of it, trees, telephone poles, you name it. In Tampa, they're forecasting 115-mile-an-hour wind in the area of Tampa and Clearwater. Okay, that's it.